Ever had someone throw your past mistakes in your face just to make you feel small? Maybe they remind you of what you said, what you did, or who you used to be, and suddenly you're not in the present anymore. You're defending your past like it's on trial. But here's the truth. Your past doesn't define you. It refines you. So the next time someone uses your past against you, here's what you say, calmly, clearly, and with confidence. We've all made mistakes, said things we wish we hadn't, done things that don't align with who we are now. And it's easy for people to take those moments and use them like weapons, trying to pull you back into a version of yourself that no longer exists. But here's what most people don't understand. Your past isn't a prison, it's a classroom. You're not stuck there, you studied there. And the lessons you took from that time are what built your awareness, your humility, and your strength today. You've already served your time in regret. Now you're walking free in wisdom. When someone brings up your past, they're often trying to remind you of your lowest moments because it makes them feel higher in the moment. It's not about who you are, it's about control. But when you say, my past is something I've learned from, not something I live in, you take that control back. You're letting them know they can't define you by your history because you've already rewritten your story. That's not defense, that's peace. That's you showing them that their reminder has no power when you've already made peace with what happened. Growth doesn't mean you erase where you came from. It means you understand it so well that it can't be used against you anymore. You can look at your past without flinching, without shame, without fear of judgment. Because when you own it, no one can weaponize it. When you've already faced it, nothing they say can surprise you. That's where real confidence comes from. Not pretending to be perfect, but being grounded in your progress. You're no longer reacting to what they bring up because you've already resolved it within yourself. Think about this. Every chapter you're ashamed of is also the proof that you kept going. Every failure that people like to highlight is evidence that you tried, that you learned, that you refused to stay down. People who haven't faced their own reflection often try to distort yours, but you can remind them calmly that your past doesn't disqualify you, it qualifies you. It gave you empathy, self-awareness, and the ability to choose better now. What once felt like a scar became your signature strength. You're not hiding from your past, you're guided by it. It's not weakness to admit you've grown. It's not hypocrisy to change. The real hypocrisy is pretending that people never evolve. So when someone says, remember when you did this? Or didn't you used to be that kind of person? You can nod and say, yes, I did, and I learned. That simple phrase disarms them because it leaves no room for guilt, no room for argument. You're agreeing with the truth, but you're also showing them that you've moved beyond it. You've built a life that your past self couldn't have imagined, and that's something to be proud of. Most people who bring up your past are stuck in theirs. They haven't yet learned to let go, so they project that onto you. But that's not your responsibility to carry. You've done the hard part, the healing, the forgiving, the growing. You've learned the lessons that pain tried to teach you, and now you're living in a different chapter, one that they might not be ready to accept. But that's okay. You're not here to convince anyone that you've changed. You're here to keep becoming the person your old self needed. You're not living in the past anymore. You're building from it. So remember this whenever someone tries to use your past against you. It's not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of their need to keep you small. You don't owe anyone a version of yourself that no longer fits. You've outgrown the person they remember, and that's something to stand tall in. Because every lesson you learned along the way has led you to a stronger, wiser, more grounded version of yourself. And that version doesn't live in the past. It learns from it. There's a quiet power in understanding that your identity isn't fixed. You're not the same person you were last year, last month, or even last week. The way you think, the way you react, the way you show up, it's all evolving. And that's something most people overlook when they try to hold you to your past. When someone brings up who you used to be, it's often because they haven't updated their version of you. They're still looking at an old picture while you've already moved forward in real life. You can't expect everyone to see your growth, and that's fine. What matters is that you do. that you stay focused on the direction you're going instead of the shadows behind you. Saying, "You're talking about who I was. I'm focused on who I'm becoming," is more than just words. It's a declaration of perspective. It tells people that your energy belongs to the present and future, not to the arguments of the past. It's a calm boundary. You're not denying what happened. You're choosing not to stay there. Because living in the past is like rereading the same painful chapter, expecting the ending to change. Growth means closing that chapter, carrying the lessons, and turning the page. You don't owe anyone the version of you that existed before you knew better. Sometimes people remind you of your past because they feel safer keeping you in it. Your growth can make them uncomfortable, especially if it highlights their own lack of change. They might mock your progress, call you fake, or question your sincerity. But that's not your fight to take on. You don't have to argue with someone who's still stuck in yesterday. The best way to show who you are now is by how you live, not by how you defend yourself. You let your actions do the talking. You let your consistency prove your evolution. Because when your focus is on becoming better, you don't need to explain. You simply keep becoming. Change doesn't always look graceful. Sometimes it looks like distance. Sometimes it looks like silence, like walking away from what no longer fits, even if others don't understand. You're not supposed to fit into the memories people built of you. Those versions served their purpose, and then they expired. So when someone keeps bringing up who you were, they're revealing more about their need for familiarity than about your truth. It's easier for them to talk about your old mistakes than to acknowledge your current maturity. But you can smile and say, "That's who I was. I'm not there anymore." And that's all that needs to be said. It's not arrogance to outgrow people's perception of you. It's growth. You can't shrink yourself back into who you were just to make others comfortable. The person you're becoming requires new habits, new mindsets, new surroundings. And yes, that means leaving behind people who only know how to relate to your past. You can love them from afar while still protecting your peace. You can acknowledge their memories without stepping back into them, because moving forward isn't betrayal, it's survival. It's the natural result of learning, healing, and evolving. You're building a new identity, and it deserves to exist without being constantly compared to your old one. Think about it. Every day, you're exposed to new lessons, new people, and new experiences that shape your mindset. You're not static, you're fluid. The past version of you didn't have the wisdom you do now. That version made choices with limited awareness, and that's okay. That's what growth is supposed to look like: imperfect, continuous, human. When you focus on who you're becoming, you give yourself permission to improve without shame. You replace guilt with responsibility. You stop rehearsing who you were and start practicing who you're meant to be. Because evolution isn't a one-time event, it's a lifestyle. And when people still want to talk about your past, let them. That's where their conversation ends and your future begins. You're not obligated to stay in a version of yourself that no longer represents your values. You're not here to convince anyone of your growth. You're here to live it. You know where you're headed, even if they don't see it yet. You know the work you've done, the nights you've wrestled with your old patterns, the times you chose peace over pride. So when you say, "You're talking about who I was, I'm focused on who I'm becoming," it's not just a statement, it's a mirror of your progress, a reminder that your focus belongs to the road ahead, not the path already traveled. There comes a point where you realize that not everyone brings up your past because they care. Some do it because they can't handle the fact that you've moved on and they haven't. When someone keeps reminding you of what you did wrong, they're trying to hand you the weight of their own discomfort. But here's the truth. You've already carried that weight. You've already faced the guilt, the shame, the self-reflection, and the work it took to grow from it. So when someone tries to drag you back into that same place, you don't have to pick up that burden again. You can calmly say, "If my past bothers you more than it bothers me, that's your issue to carry," and walk away knowing you're protecting your peace, not defending your past. People love to play moral referee when it comes to someone else's life. They'll judge you from the comfort of distance, pointing out your flaws like they've never made their own mistakes. But judgment is easy when it's not your story being told. The difference between you and them is that you've already faced your truth. You've taken accountability. You've turned that pain into understanding. So when someone can't stop talking about your past, it's not really about you anymore. It's about them being unable to let go of who they need you to be. They need that version of you to stay alive because it gives them something to feel superior about. But you don't have to participate in that narrative. You can simply acknowledge it without absorbing it. This statement isn't about arrogance, it's about boundaries. It's about refusing to let someone project their unresolved feelings onto you. When you say it, you're not being defensive, you're being detached. You're drawing a line between what belongs to you and what doesn't. You're saying, I've already made peace with that chapter. If you're still stuck in it, that's your problem to unpack. It's powerful because it keeps your emotional responsibility where it belongs, with you, and leaves their projections right where they came from. You're not responsible for someone else's unwillingness to move forward. It's easy to get pulled back into explaining yourself, trying to prove that you've changed, trying to get them to see your growth. But sometimes people don't want to understand. They just want to hold something over you. That's why you stop trying to convince them. You don't need to reapply for your own peace. You already earned it through self-awareness and growth. So the next time someone brings up who you used to be, you can respond with calm confidence instead of emotional defense, because peace doesn't mean silence, it means clarity. It means you know what's yours to carry and what isn't. There's something freeing about no longer taking ownership of someone else's discomfort. When you stop trying to make everyone comfortable with your growth, you start living freely. You stop shrinking to fit inside their version of your story. They can talk about the past all they want. It doesn't make it your present. You can listen, even nod, without reacting, because you've already done the inner work. You've healed the wounds they're still trying to reopen. And if they can't handle that peace, that's their own reflection to deal with. You've spent enough time apologizing for being human. Now you're just focused on being honest and evolving. The people who keep revisiting your past are usually the ones who haven't made peace with their own. They see your growth and feel threatened by it because it forces them to confront what they haven't changed in themselves. So they try to pull you back to a time when you were easier to understand, easier to judge. But you're no longer that person, and you're not responsible for helping them feel okay about it. That's what this statement does. It reminds both of you where the accountability lies. You own your growth, and they own their fixation. You're not dismissing the past, you're just refusing to live under someone else's version of it. When you fully accept your past, it loses its ability to control you. And once it no longer controls you, it can't embarrass you. That's why other people's opinions about it stop mattering. You already faced the mirror they're trying to hold up. You already stood in your own truth long enough to make peace with it. So now, when someone brings it up, it doesn't sting. It just sounds outdated. You can let them have their conversation, but you don't have to join it. Because if your past bothers them more than it bothers you, that's not your load to lift anymore. You've already done the heavy lifting, and you're finally walking light. There's a difference between pretending your past didn't happen and understanding how it shaped you. Growth isn't about wiping the slate clean. It's about learning to build on top of what's already there. When you say, I don't erase my past, I use it, you're owning every part of your journey, the good, the bad, and the messy. You're saying, yes, I made mistakes, yes, I struggled, and yes, I'm still standing. You're not ashamed of your story, you're grateful for it. Because it's the very thing that gave you strength, empathy, and self-awareness. You're no longer running from your past, you're walking with it, letting it guide your choices without letting it define your limits. Some people think healing means forgetting, but the truth is, healing means remembering differently. It's about looking at your past not as a wound, but as wisdom. Every pain taught you something about who you are and what you deserve. Every failure showed you what needed to change. Every disappointment built resilience where weakness once lived. When you use your past instead of erasing it, You take back the power it once had over you. You turn memories into motivation, regret into resolve, and shame into strength. The story that once held you down now becomes the reason you stand taller. People might still see your past as a stain, but you see it as a source. It's the place where you learned boundaries, compassion, and courage. You're not trying to rewrite history, you're using it as a reference, because the same experiences that made you question yourself are the ones that now make you unstoppable. When you use your past, you're saying, I've already lived through worse. I know how to recover. I know how to rebuild. That's power, not the loud, boastful kind, but the quiet confidence that comes from surviving your own mistakes and learning from them. You've taken what could have broken you and built something out of it. Using your past doesn't mean glorifying it. It means extracting the lessons without carrying the pain. You're able to look back without being pulled back. You can revisit those memories without losing your balance. That's emotional maturity, the ability to remember without reliving. Because the goal isn't to pretend you never messed up. The goal is to show how you've evolved because of it. Every scar has a story, but now it's a story that serves you, not one that shames you. You've learned how to turn reflection into progress, and that's something no one can take from you. The moment you stop trying to erase your past, you stop giving it power over you, because what you hide owns you, but what you face frees you. When you openly acknowledge your past, people can't use it against you anymore. They might try to remind you of it, but you can respond with calm certainty. I already know. I was there, and I learned. You take away their ability to weaponize your past by transforming it into wisdom. You're showing them that the same story they want to shame you with is the reason you've grown into someone stronger and more grounded. That's what it means to use your past. It becomes your foundation, not your cage. You see, your past isn't something to hide in the dark corners of your memory. It's a blueprint. It shows you what patterns to avoid, what habits to break, and what values to hold on to. Every experience, even the painful ones, gave you insight you couldn't have gained any other way. You know what it's like to fall and get back up. You know what it's like to lose and rebuild. And that understanding makes you dangerous in the best way, because nothing can catch you off guard anymore. You've already seen what happens when you ignore your lessons. Now you use them to move differently, to live intentionally, to rise with purpose. So when people expect you to be ashamed of your past, you don't hide it, you own it. You wear it as proof that growth is real and possible. You show that you're not trying to delete your history because your history is the reason you have wisdom. You don't erase it because it's your teacher, your reminder, your fuel. Every version of you, even the broken, uncertain, or unpolished ones, played a part in building the person you are now. And that's what makes you unstoppable. Because when you learn to use your past instead of running from it, nothing about it can ever be used to stop you again. Growth isn't about pretending your past never happened. It's about recognizing that every version of you was necessary to get here. When you say, what I did then helped me become who I am now, you're acknowledging that the person you were made choices with the knowledge and awareness they had at the time. You're not excusing mistakes. You're understanding them. Every wrong turn, every heartbreak, every regret carried a lesson that shaped your mindset today. You're not proud of everything you did, but you're proud of how you grew from it. That's the real transformation, not perfection, but progress built from honesty. When people talk about your past, they often forget that change takes courage. It's easy to criticize someone from the outside, but it takes real strength to look at yourself and say, I can do better. You've done that. You faced your flaws, you took responsibility, and you evolved. You didn't stay stuck in the patterns that hurt you or others. You learned, you adapted, and you grew. That's something to be proud of. Because pride doesn't come from having a flawless history. It comes from having the humility to improve and the discipline to keep doing better. What you did then might not reflect who you are now, but it's the foundation that allowed you to become this version of yourself. Think about how many times your mistakes became your motivation. The pain you felt pushed you to find peace. The moments of failure taught you resilience. The times you hurt others taught you empathy. Those experiences built layers of depth in you that nothing else could have. Without them, you wouldn't have the same understanding, the same patience, the same clarity you carry now. So, no matter how hard your past looks on paper, it still played a part in your growth. You took what was broken and used it to build something better. That's not something to hide, that's something to honor. There's a strength that comes from owning your journey. When you stop running from your past, it stops running after you. You can look back at who you were and feel gratitude instead of guilt. Gratitude for the lessons, for the awareness, for the second chances you gave yourself. It doesn't mean you're proud of everything that happened. It means you're proud of the person who refused to stay there. Growth isn't about erasing your old self. It's about evolving from them. You can appreciate who you were, even if that person made mistakes, because they still had the courage to keep going. And that persistence is what built your strength today. You see, people who haven't accepted their own evolution will try to make you feel guilty for yours. They'll remind you of who you were, hoping it will make you shrink, but you can stand tall and say, yes, I did that, and it helped me become who I am now. That statement removes their power immediately because you're not hiding, you're owning. You've already faced yourself, already forgiven yourself, already learned. So